Hello neighbor, this is Curt with etrailer, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Konig Self-Tensioning Tire Chains and see how they interact with our 2022 Ford Edge. Now if you've gone ahead and decided to go with this set of tire chains and you've got some experience with them, go ahead and share that in the comments below. We'd love to share your story with our other neighbors so they can make the best decision for themselves. Now, if you have been looking for a set of tire chains, maybe you've got a vacation coming up and some of the stretches of road require you to have tire chains in the vehicle just in case, or you live in an area where tire chains can come in very handy in those winter months in order to get around. A set of self-tensioning tire chains from Konig would be an excellent choice for you. Now, by self-tensioning, what I mean is if you've got experience with other types of tire chains, whether they're self-adjusting or rather whether they're assisted tensioning or they're manual tensioning, you know that after you go down the road a little bit, you always want to get out and double check and make for readjustments. With self-tensioning, you don't really have to worry about that because through this system right here, this is going to keep constant pressure on it, so any slack that develops as you're rolling the tires down the road is instantly going to be taken up using this device right here. Now, this is going to be a nickel manganese alloy as far as the chains go, which is going to make them extremely corrosion resistant. They're also in a square link, and a square link means it's going to have a slight edge to it, and that's going to do a really good job of really kind of like biting into the ice and the snow and things like that and giving you good traction. They're also smaller links which can afford for a smoother ride for you. Now, the other thing about them is that they're in what's called a diamond pattern. So a diamond pattern means that the chains are going to crisscross against each other as they go around the tire, and that means that no matter where your tire is placed, there's always going to be chain contacting the road. Now that is not necessarily true of a ladder pattern, which as you can imagine, they simply go straight across. There are moments in that where you're in between the chains as you're rolling and you don't get quite as good of a grip with that. So the other thing about it being a diamond pattern, this does come to a kind of a square link in the middle. That does an excellent job of busting up that tough ice underneath your tires and keeping that traction going. Now, we do have it mounted on the rear tire of our Ford Edge. The Ford Edge comes in either rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. So in a rear-wheel drive model, we want it on the back tire. You have the option of either when it comes to an all-wheel drive model, but I would suggest that you put them on the front tires of an all-wheel drive model simply because another benefit of the diamond pattern is that it really helps with control going through those turns. So the installation of this is extremely easy. It only has one connection in the back up at the top of the tire, so that means that you don't have to get underneath the vehicle in that snow and ice and all that wet and everything and get yourself colder, frankly, in order to get these on. It's really very simple. So stick around, we'll show you how we got these on. Now, the first thing that we want to do whenever we're going to put on our tire chains is lay them all out flat. What we're looking for is to make sure there's not any twists or kinks in the chain before we put it on. And if these are chains that we've used before, we also want to check and make sure there wasn't any damage done to them the last time we used them. Now, I am wearing gloves during this process, and I do think that's good practice for two reasons, really. One, there are some sharper edges here to the chain, so I want to avoid pinching or cutting up my hands. But the other thing, too, is most times when you're putting on tire chains, it's going to be pretty cold and nasty out, and you're probably going to have gloves on anyway, so it's good practice to be able to put these on while wearing gloves. But now that I've got it all laid out flat, and I'm looking at it, and you can see how the diamond pattern comes to this square in the middle to bust up the ice, so you get a better visual of that. We're also color-coded at our attachment points, which is going to help us out in lower light conditions in order getting this all hooked together. All of my connection points are going to be in red around the front. And we do have a separation right here in the middle. So what we're going to do first is kind of separate that and keep it from getting too twisted up or anything. And we're just going to feed the first portion of our chain back behind the vehicle here and around the front of the tire. And as we bring it around, I'm looking for this little red loop here to come around to the bottom. That is going to be connecting through the front, so I'm trying to get some of that back around the front too. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab both ends of my cable and maybe a little bit of the chain to help kind of drape it over evenly, and I'm going to come up behind the tire and make that connection. I'm going to try to maintain control of the chain as much as I can and get that drape pretty even. I want that center square link to be right in the middle of the tire if possible. And we're just going to kind of work this around and make sure that it's all going to be kind of laying flat up against it. So with our cable connected in the back and our drape being pretty even around the tire, we're going to go ahead and connect this red chain loop here to the open end of this red hook here in the front. I'm going to kind of come through, again, just making sure that we're centered as we go through all of this. Now the next portion that I'm going to do is down here at the bottom. And to do this, I'm going to open up this latch, feed this cable through just like this, and then I'm just going to pull on it really kind of as tight as I can get it. Next thing I'm going to do is take the red hook out of here, stretch that cable down, and hook it in to that loop there. Now what this is going to do is provide constant tension to this, which is why as you're rolling down the road, any slack that ends up coming out of our chains is going to be immediately taken up by this device and just keep this whole cable really, really tight for us. It's not going to come loose or anything like that. So this is really kind of the most low maintenance way, easy way to install it, an easy way to get down the road back and forth without having to constantly check on your chains. But with all that being said, this is a really, really high quality tire chain that's going to do an excellent job for you in those icy conditions and those snowy conditions. Even in those muddy conditions, something like this can help you really a lot as far as traction and control goes. But with all that being said, I think this would be an excellent choice for you and your 2022 Ford Edge. I'm Curt with eTrailer. Thanks for stopping by.